Nice trade, Falvey. Save a prayer for the Twins. The morning after, Jhoan Duran has been traded to the Phillies for 2 prospects. A strange couple days at Target Field yield the biggest deal of the trade deadline season so far, league-wide. Let's talk about it after you get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Trade deadline special. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Imperial Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. Don't forget, hit like and subscribe where applicable. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer who didn't make this trade, so don't dox me. I'm also a BBWA member and a Hall of Fame voter. Across the Great Plains of cyberspace is Brandon Warne, who did Brandon guess the return for this trade like he did with Chris Paddack? Let's let him tell us in a second. Brandon was a Twins fan who became a Twins writer, and now he's both. You can find his work at the Access Twins newsletter and mine periodically at Zone Coverage. They're probably wondering where I am. On this podcast, the Twins have really started to blow it up. The Maniacs, not like the Statue of Liberty in the Planet of the Apes, not yet, but Jhoan Duran is out the door following a Paddack yesterday. We'll check in with Duran, Paddack, Falvey, the beat writers, Twins fans. We'll see how everyone's taking it and what might be next. We know Carlos Correa, or we suspect that Carlos Correa won't be next. It doesn't look like he'll be traded, but some of you might find it surprising that the Twins and Astros talked about it. The Twins also got their butts kicked today in the rubber game against the Red Sox. You're probably better off not looking into what happened. But some other odd things did happen at the ballpark at Target Field, and we'll talk about that too. Some of it relates to Duran and some butt clenching and that sort of thing, and we'll talk about it soon. But Brandon, Jhoan Duran is out of here 2.5 years before free agency for Phillies prospects. Mick Abel, a right-hander who is 23 years old and has some MLB starts under his belt with some encouraging results. And encouraging results at AAA after he struggled last year. He's maybe their 6th or 7th best prospect. The other prospect coming back is actually ranked higher by Phillies analysts, national and local. Catcher Eduardo Tait, who is from Panama. He's not yet 19, and he's already hitting well at advanced A-ball. It's going to be a few years until he reaches the majors, so they've kind of split the baby here. They've got a guy that can put in the rotation tomorrow, theoretically, or whenever they play again, and a guy who is one of the better prospects as hitters go among catchers in Major League Baseball, a spot where the Twins did not have a lot of, the Twins have a pretty good farm system, but not a lot of catchers. So now they've added 2 in these trades so far. First, Brandon, I want to know what you think of Duran being sent away. Is this a tough day for you as a Twins fan, and can you reflect on how it might be for a lot of people who really liked having him around?
I mean, yeah, I try not to get too attached to guys, and my time covering the team kind of has helped with that. But at the same time, too, I mean, he'd been in the organization since 2018. We're going on a little over 7 years because the trade to acquire him, I think, was like the 28th that year. I recently looked it up. So I know it was right around this time. It was actually when the Twins were at Fenway. So anyway, tough day from the sense that you never want to see your good players go, no matter how much money they're making or where they are in club control, all that stuff. At the end of the day, I think it became not a necessary evil, but at least something the Twins had to consider. They have nobody to blame but themselves for where they are right now. And the byproduct of that is parting out what you still feel is a pretty talented big league roster, because bad teams don't need elite closers. Now, to fall back to the 2.5 years of control, or 2 2/7, whatever it comes out to. Yeah. Could you have traded him for more in the offseason or at the next deadline? Really, there's no way to know. There are a lot of people who are convinced it's a bad return because the Twins didn't get Andrew Painter. Maybe that wasn't realistic in the first place. It brings me back to when the Twins traded Johan Santana, and the mystical package everybody wanted to get was, get this, Clayton Kershaw,
what?
Matt Kemp, and Andy LaRoche. Now, keep in mind, these guys were all in A-ball at the time.
Okay.
And there was also, like, the Yankees had at the time, Jabba Chamberlain, Phil Hughes. The Red Sox had Jed Lowry, John Lester, and the Twins end up with not a lot. I mean, Carlos Gomez, Phil Umber, Deolis Guerra, and Kevin Mulvey. And
two major leaguers, right?
Sure, and I get why Twins fans have some PTSD about that. But at the end of the day, the Twins still have a strong bullpen. Nobody's going to want to hear that. And I did go to Mick Abel's Fangraph page, not to confirm my priors or anything, because honestly, I didn't know that much about him. But one thing that did stand out was all 5 of his pitches are 100 or higher on Stuff Plus. So a metric that shows, I think, how explosive the pitches are, the movement, whatever. Location, obviously, but it was like 97 for Location Plus. So the stuff is good, the location's not. That is pretty much everything you would expect from a 23-year-old making their first trip in the big leagues. So I'm not putting a ton of stock in big league results. He has had some command issues from time to time, but what young starter won't? And you got a possible high-end catcher. Honestly, I think it just kind of is what it is. I don't know that anybody was offering better. The Twins decided they had a Jhoan Duran-sized hole in their pocket, and this is where we are.
Do you have a Jhoan Duran hole size in your pocket, or are you just sad to see him go? That's the question.
That's probably the same thing, yeah.
Yeah. The sadness part of it, Duran's wife is on Twitter and does a good job of, checking unreasonable complaints against her husband. So I enjoyed her fighting for him on that level. Duran is a guy that it's hard to replace an end of the back of the bullpen kind of guy. But if there's an organization that's doing pretty well with relief pitchers, it's still the Twins. We'll see what happens here in the next less than 24 hours before the trade deadline happens. I can't imagine that Varland is going to go. I think there's a decent chance that this time next year he's the Twins closer. Jax is still here. He could go. If you get this kind of return, it's not quite the same thing. He's a little older than Duran, but I can imagine there are scouts out there who like Jax's stuff more, and maybe you could see another trade like this. It would be tough to handle from a standpoint of 2 years ago, the Twins are in the playoffs, and Duran is a big part of it. And not even 2 years after that, they're starting to trade people away. And 2 disappointing seasons, 24 and 25, where they were supposed to be contenders for a playoff spot, if not the AL Central, and it just didn't happen. So that doesn't necessarily reflect well on Falvey or Rocco or anybody else with the organization, but it's still disappointing on a level to see that the Twins are sort of cashing in a little bit here at the deadline, and not – it's just a final stamp on the disappointment that has been the last 2 years. So it still might not be the final stamp on the trades that they're going to do. I would imagine that Harrison Bader will go. Jax maybe is probably not likely, but he could go too. And there are other players as well. Danny Coulombe probably out the door. And we'll talk about some other players in the next segment that maybe would catch some people by surprise. But it's an emotional day. The Twins got themselves pummeled by the Red Sox. That wasn't really a fun experience at Target Field, but it has been kind of funny and strange in the last couple of days. Yesterday, everybody's watching every little movement that the team makes, and Duran was spotted hugging people in the bullpen, Twins personnel, and people thought, well, maybe it was hug watch time, and he was about to be traded. And it was just kind of him doing what he usually does, hug his friends, but also maybe being a little bit of a troll. And there's some very saucy photos of some butts being grabbed out there. So these are men who are not afraid to express themselves, and they're comfortable enough in their sexuality that they're going to grab butts of their teammates sometimes. And it's just kind of a funny little side thing about what's been going on. It's been a crazy couple of days. People see see signs everywhere. It's almost a biblical thing, like an Armageddon situation where they're looking for signs for the end of the world. And it's not the end of the world. It's just kind of the end of the Twins being competitive this year.
And that never happened in the first place. Yeah, bullpens make strange bedfellows. And I think we saw that with the embrace of Duran. And I don't remember if it was a bullpen coach or bullpen catcher. It was not a teammate. And so, yeah, I think too, and we'll talk about this later, there were other signs that I think the Twins are gearing up for a massive sell-off. And I mean, in terms of pending free agents and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be a very eventful 20-something-ish hours from now until the deadline.
Let's take our first break, cash that in, and come back and talk more about what has happened so far here as the trade deadline gets close and what might happen next.
We got to talk about Supply House. No, I'm kidding. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. That is Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order your products online. And they have an easy-to-use website packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person and the best people in the game on the other side of that phone call. And if you're a trade pro looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks. You'll get like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5. That's Seth Halverson, who may be traded pretty soon from the Rockies. 5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
Was that Rocco getting upset, your dog Rocco, at the trade deadline? What was that noise?
I think someone's messing with one of his toys out there. The rest of the fam just got home. So
we'll tell them we just made a big trade here. And we're trying to keep it.
Actually, it's kind of funny. I don't want to go too deep into the woods, but I've been keeping my wife up to speed because someone she's close with lives near the Duran family. And so they're, to put it lightly, shooketh.
Yeah. Even though, there were signs that this might happen.
Yeah,
rumors that it could happen. It's still a shock to, even if it was like considered inevitable and likely for the past few weeks, it's still to get traded is a shock to the system for the family. It's, you feel strange and you're like, am I wanted? Oh, okay, this other team wants me, so that's good. Oh, I got to uproot my entire life now. And it's just a little, and then you got to as the player, you have to basically trust your wife to do all of that stuff because you have to get yourself in a headspace and in a literal space with your next team.
And I haven't checked. Do the Phillies play tomorrow? I know only 6 teams play.
I don't know.
I don't believe they're one of the 6. Atlanta, Cincinnati, Texas, and Seattle. And I don't have the last game, but I would say odds are they do not. They're playing the White Sox as we speak. And then on Thursday, what's the Thursday schedule look like? I'm trying to figure out if the Phillies play, though, because he might have a little extra time. Yeah, it's Rays, Yankees, Braves, Reds, Rangers, Mariners. So, I mean, not that one extra day is pivotal in the uprooting your whole life, but it should help at least a little bit.
It's going to help. It's definitely going to help. This is what Duran had to say before the deal. Reporters on the ground at Target Field were asking him about potentially being traded, and he said, that'd be hard. I got a couple years here, and I feel like here is my family. So if that happens, that's maybe breaking my heart a little bit. So that's kind of a heartbreaking quote. But, he's a professional, and these guys got to tune that stuff out. His first opponent is going to be the Detroit Tigers. So Jack Flaherty versus Ranger Suarez at Philadelphia. So he's going to – I don't know if they're going to have Duran's intro ready to go at Philly, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was part of the trade that they asked for that file, so the Phillies can at Citizens Bank Park simulate what the Twins have done for Duran. It's one of the better intros in the league. So we'll see if he gets an opportunity to save a game or enter a game on Friday if they have that information ready to go. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Eduardo Tait. He's not quite 19 years old. He's left-handed. He's a little stocky, his build, according to Keith Law. Keith Law says everyone agrees that Tait can hit and hit it hard with power to come. He hit 321, 377, 500 in the Florida Complex League last year, moved up to low A, hit 269, 316, 462 in 28 games as a 17-year-old. That's a really good sign that he's going to be able to hit. What we don't know yet is how his body and his he's got a good arm. He's got a really good arm. But that's basically the basis of his defense. And that's the part that needs as much work as anything, according to what Law says and what other Phillies writers say. Matt Winkelman, who is my favorite Phillies prospect writer, says on defense, he still needs work, but his strong arm continues to control the running game and has been good at blocking. So there's that. Maybe he's leaving out framing, so everyone's favorite thing. We'll see.
Well, it may not matter by the time he makes the big leagues.
Well, they'll probably still need to frame because it's going to be a challenge system. Don't do that, Brandon. They're only gonna have like 3 checks on the umpire a game, so he's still gonna need to frame sometimes. But
sure,
if he's going to stay behind the plate, so it's not 100% sure that he will, but I'm sure they're gonna try it. If he's gonna stay behind the plate, Matt Winkelman writes, it might be a slow progression, especially as the workload inevitably puts some more strain on his offense. So he's one of the better prospects who are catchers in the league. He's not a defense-first catcher, but I like that he hits. So we'll see if he can adapt and learn the other parts of the game behind the plate. I'm glad that the Twins have more stock in catchers now with him added to the roster.
Yeah, and so MLB Pipeline has him as the 6th prospect catcher behind, hopefully I'll say this right, Samuel Basallo of the Orioles, Ethan Salas, Blake Mitchell, Moises Ballesteros, and Harry Ford, someone that a lot of Twins fans have been talking about. Oh, I'd love to see if he would be in the trade if Duran had been moved there. But 6th on that list, he is the youngest on that list. Salas is 19. And it's not terribly surprising that a 18 going on 19-year-old catcher is going to take a little while to round into form. There's not too many guys who can come up and be a transformational catcher at age 21 like Joe Mauer did. So I suppose you can hear my dog, can't you?
I can hear him. I'm laughing at Rocco right now.
He's mad that the neighbors are out riding their bikes. But it's not any sort of ding against him. He's ahead of Jefferson. Is it Cuero or Caro?
Caro.
So that's another catcher prospect that we've heard a lot about. He's made it to AAA. He's 22. That should let people know that the Tait is pretty highly regarded. And I saw, now I don't know where people find this information, but like StatCast balloons or whatever you call them, sliders for Tait, and like everything was in the red.
It's red.
So, yeah.
He's a big red dude.
Between that, he's a big red machine. Between that and Abel looking like he should be able to help him pitching-wise this year. I mean, I'm not trying to, take big puffs of the copium or anything, but they did fine. There's plenty of people whose opinions I trust that say they did fine. R.M. Layton called it and I quote, haul. So I stand with R.M.
But at the same time, J.D. Cameron, Jamie doesn't like the trade. So he follows the minor leagues too. And so you got a lot of different opinions about it. And I've seen some criticism of the deal. We mentioned the control that the team would have had over Duran for the rest of this season and 2 more.
I do want to talk about that before we leave too, by the way.
All right. Well, we could do that. We could do that now. Or I did want to mention a couple other things though. Carlos Correa is not apparently going to be traded. Was he supposed to be? Maybe. The Astros inquired about their former player, and the talks did not go anywhere for now. It does seem like the kind of deal that might be suited more to an off season, but
Paredes will be healthy then, though. That's
that. Yes, but also I don't know. He could be a first baseman. I don't know.
Paredes could play
Still,
first. Yeah.
you still have Christian Walker, but right.
He's
But
been pretty brutal this year too.
he's been doing a little bit better later, and he's still got a couple more years left on his deal. So we'll see about that. But it was interesting that if basically what Correa said was, yes, I'm aware of this. It would be a place that I would go if it would work out, but really I want to make it work here in Minnesota. So it was kind of a diplomatic answer. But he's got a no trade clause. But I feel like, yeah, he's got a no trade clause. But he would go back to Houston if they could work out a trade. They did not work out a trade. That would have been. It would have been, I imagine the Twins would be like, yeah, we can do this trade, but you're going to pay for all his salary, right? And maybe the Astros were like, no. But, and that, of course, would depend, the kind of return that they get would be dependent on that too. That would be, there's the Duran, there's moving people like Duran and even Paddack to a certain extent, or Coulomb.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Correa and Buxton. Still really and along with Pablo and Ryan, that's the core. If you wanted to boil it down to four guys, that's probably the main four guys that you sort of build off from. And when you start talking about, Buxton's not going anywhere, it makes sense to me that you would also kind of stay invested with Correa and not move him. So it's funny to me that this got out. I think maybe that's Boris. Boris is usually the source of the leaks, right?
But Heyman put the cold water on it, so the Boris giveth and the Boris taketh away. I don't know.
I don't know either. What did you want to say about Duran's?
Let's take our last
control.
pause, and then when we come back, we have some thoughts on that.
All right.
So, Dave, what I'm thinking is like. The thing that you can't escape is the possibility of a pitcher like Duran breaking down. And there are some indicators that things aren't what they've been. Now, the velocity is still strong. He's kept the ball in the ballpark, on the ground, all that stuff. Strikeout rate has dropped to 9.7 per 9, which is good, but it's not what elite relievers do nowadays. Griffin Jax is, 13, 14?
Yes.
And Duran's walk rate has nudged up a little bit. I don't know. I think the part that you have to kind of hedge when you're Derek Falvey is you got the best of Duran. Do you want the rest of Duran? And the trouble is the next 2 years, he's going to have arbitration eligibility. He's going to be paid quite handsomely, deservedly so. I'm not trying to take that away from him. But with the team in the spot they are financially, with the Pohlad debacle, and I think it's more than charitable to call it that, I kind of get why the deal was made, even if the Twins think Abel can come up and help them, they can be decent down the stretch, maintain some shred of competitiveness, and maybe just reshuffle a bit. You're not rebuilding a team around Byron Buxton. You're not rebuilding a team around Carlos Correa, I don't think. Which makes Abel a big part of the deal because they've got question marks in the rotation after the next couple of years. They have them right now, for all we know, what Bailey Ober is going to look like when he comes back and that sort of thing. So ultimately, I think you have to, when the Twins traded Brusdar Graterol, they got back a known thing, a known commodity. And I don't want to commodify Kenta Maeda, but they knew who Kenta Maeda was. Kenta Maeda was Kenta Maeda. He comes in. Unfortunately, the 2020 season is abbreviated. He wins a Mickey Mouse second place Cy Young finish and gives them about what they could have expected. But they also had to get out on Brusdar Graterol probably before a lot of fans wanted to, etc. Graterol is broken down. With that said, Aroldis Chapman has he broken down to this point in his career? Not particularly, right? So
not at all. He's kind of freakishly still as amazing as he always was.
Mama's milk makes you strong, baby. I don't know. Ooh, that was probably underhanded.
Wow.
That was probably underhanded. But
how'd you pull that? That was naughty.
How did he pull that? Anyway, yeah, I don't know if getting out on Duran at this time is going to appear prescient. Is that how you say that? Prescient? It's going to appear.
Yeah, it could. That's a great vocabulary word.
It's possible.
Better than mommy's milk, I'll tell you that.
Well, the Twins bullpen should still be strong. If Abel comes in and gives you 40, 50 solid innings down the stretch, 30, 40, maybe like solid where it looks like he's learning, gaining experience, he is going to be kind of on that Zebby Festa SWR timeline. And you still got Pablo and you still got Joe Ryan. It's a perfectly fine deal. Anybody who thought they were getting Andrew Painter was probably fooling themselves.
Painter has been, whenever anybody's brought up Painter for the past year, because the Phillies have talked about making a deadline deal or not or whatever, and Painter's the guy everybody wanted, the Phillies have always said, we're not trading him.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't, I suppose people do that when they're just trying to tweak leverage and so forth, but they're obviously not, Abel is not as good of a prospect as Painter is, for sure.
Right.
Even with Painter coming back from Tommy John and some unknowns.
Well, and Abel rebounding too. I mean, he was down for a while too.
He was. But I like, you mentioned the Twins rotation next year. And of course, Pablo has been hurt this year, so that sort of casts a little bit of doubt on, well, is he going to make 30 starts next year? But if he does, Pablo making 30 starts, Joe Ryan making 30 starts, Zebby making 30 starts, and Abel making 30 starts, that is...
You still got Ober, too. Who?
You got Ober, and you got SWR, who has shown...
More.
He might be better as a relief pitcher, but those four guys, and then Ober hopefully getting his act together. It looks like maybe he's been doing that in the minor leagues. We'll see.
Pre-lip. Few guys.
Pre-lip. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, my pre-lip, Raya. Sorry, I got Marco Raya combined. Pre-lip, Raya, and SWR could all be relievers for all we know, and they'd still probably be in okay shape.
Oh, I think that's an interesting, with Varland, that is an interesting bullpen to have, and presuming
young and cheap too,
with lots of good stuff and different looks for people, for hitters. I like that a lot. The pitching staff is looking pretty good, knock on wood. So that's good. Speaking of pitchers, Chris Paddack is gone. He already loves it in Detroit. He couldn't help himself.
Yeah.
He gets to Detroit, and this is what he says. Everybody has been awesome so far. These facilities here, all the coaching staff, nutritionists, he's already into the nutritionist. He had lunch. The kitchen, it's amazing what they have compared to what we had over at the Twins. It's like, did Royce Lewis send this quote over? Because it sounds very ungrateful, but yes, ungrateful too. But the bigger quote, my life got twisted upside down in a matter of 24 hours. I love that. That's a great kind of malaprop, half malaprop. I've been traded before, but never at the deadline. It's going to take some getting used to. Everybody has been awesome so far. And then he goes into the facilities. I'm just trying to put my head down and contribute and win some ball games any way I can. It was a good one to get that first one out of the way. So Paddack had one of his good starts. It was kind of like the Dodgers start, or that run in late April and May where he got on a good roll for 11 starts or so. We mentioned this before. Yeah, he had a 4.90 ERA, but he also had a bunch of good starts. This was a good start for the Tigers. So that's going to make Falvey look good in the eyes of the Tigers, which is what we all care about. So that's good. That's a good start for him. It's kind of a funny quote. I thought it was not atypical of Paddack to not put his foot in his mouth, but at least some shoelaces. I don't know.
Can I be candid? Like how much I care about these, like how much weight I'm putting into Tigers over Twins for Paddack's comments?
Yeah.
0.
Well, that looks like a good burger that Paddack had thanks to the nutritionists over it.
Or his, what is it, pepperoni and mushroom or sausage or whatever pizza he would eat before every single start. He must have had that last.
That doesn't sound like someone from Texas.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Good. I have no ill will or anything like that. It's just you put a microphone in front of a guy right after they're traded. They all say the same thing. Outside of like maybe like a Manny Ramirez, yeah, I like it here. Yeah, I'd love to stay if the money's right. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then nobody remembers that when Chris Paddack signs a 2-year deal worth $22 million with the Royals in December. Bookmark that one.
Oh, man, he's coming to Kansas City? I can't get rid of the sheriff. He's going to be in my life forever.
Yeah.
That's okay. He's kind of a funny guy if you keep him at arm's length. But
yeah.
Hey, fans out there of this podcast, we want to make sure that you are subscribed to Locked On Twins because that way you don't miss any of the great Twins content we've got for you. That includes the Twins postcast with Luke Inman live after the final out of every game. Perhaps you watched or listened to Luke and his postcast today after whatever that was against the Red Sox. I don't even want to get into it.
Abomination.
There you go. You get 2 shows for the price of 1 that way, and it's actually all free. So there's no price. So how about that? And finally, though, we want to thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen today, even if it was maybe your second. For your next listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night, which brings you every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So for my buddy Brandon Warne, this is Dave Brown, wishing you all a very pleasant good evening for Wednesday, July 30th. Tomorrow is the trade deadline, so we're going to talk more trade. The next episode, it's going to be overanalyzing the Danny Coulomb trade or whatever's coming. So for everybody, I'm me. Good night. Alexa, see you tomorrow. We going to trade the Ducks?
I think so.